How's it going, guys? My name is Luis, and the last video I did was on my must-have games for the Nintendo Switch. This one is focused on the Xbox One, and as you could expect, the next one is on the PS4. But for the Xbox One and PS4 video, I want to mostly focus on console exclusives, just because if I include multi-platforms in there, they're kind of going to be the same thing. So I don't want to have two of the same lists with two different games on each list. So mostly will be console exclusive for the Xbox One and PS4 with some slight third-party games in the mix. But without further ado, here are the games I recommend you pick up if you currently have an Xbox One, more specifically also an Xbox One X. Halo 5, single player gripes aside, was still a very fun upgrade for the Halo series in terms of multiplayer content. Warszone was a big new addition to the multiplayer, and you can think of it as an upgraded big battle that just isn't about kills. Instead, you go after points, whether it's kills, capturing bases, or more. The overall package felt like a bigger, more immersive Halo that only got better since launch. Sadly, the same can't be said about the single-player content, which is pretty much just false advertising if you look at the commercials for it, but regardless, the multiplayer still holds up, and it's still worthy just to pick up the game just to only play the multiplayer. Speaking of Halo, Halo the Master Chief Collection has gotten some much-needed upgrades since it last launched. It's still one of the most impressive game collections to be released, containing Halo 1, 2, 3, and 4, and ODST as well if you count it as DLC. For all intents and purposes, this should have been a stellar package at launch, and it was, except for the multiplayer matchmaking that really sucked. Luckily, in 2018, most of those issues are fixed now. Sure, there is the occasional outlier problem, but it's still pretty much mostly fixed to the point where you're not just enjoying the great single-player content, but also the multiplayer content. Cuphead for me was the last big and great Xbox One game to come out last year, and it definitely was a contender for a game of the year for me. It's a boss rush game with some platformer levels sprinkled in between, but still mostly focused on tough and challenging boss fights. You can play alone or with a friend in local multiplayer. The big standout though with this title is of course the art style that makes it look like a 1930s cartoon come to life. This game doesn't just spit out charm though, it backs it up with actual challenging and entertaining gameplay that's just as noteworthy as the visual aesthetics of the game. Rare Replay Collection, much like Halo the Master Chief Collection, is a great value coming in at $30 for 30 rare games. That's $1 for every game, and it includes fantastic titles like Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, and Killer Instinct. The game collection ranges from games as old as RC Pro-Am to some more modern 360 releases like Viva Pinata. If you grew up playing classic rare games on the Super Nintendo or the N64, this is a game collection you're going to need to have for your Xbox One. It is a must-have. Ori and the Blind Forest is one of the most heartwarming games I've ever played. It's an absolutely beautiful puzzle platformer action game that's sort of like a Metroidvania game. The story is engaging while the soundtrack is just breathtaking. In general, it's just a really well-rounded game that got me incredibly excited for the upcoming sequel, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which is hopefully not going to get delayed this year. I'm really excited for it. Killer Instinct was released a while ago, but it's still getting constant updates since its release, with new characters like Rash from Battletoads and the Arbiter from Halo. It's a fun and competitive fighter that's still approachable for people like me that like playing fighting games but completely suck at them and only really play them with their friends who are very technical and into the metagame. It also recently got a visual upgrade for the Xbox One X, letting you completely play the game in native 4K 60. It's not the most visually stunning game in terms of art style, but it's definitely one of the sharpest looking games now on the Xbox One X. Gears of War 4 was a killer third-person shooter in 2016, and now it's one of the best looking games on the Xbox One X. In terms of the single-player content, you get a solid campaign that takes a step into the future of the characters that you grew up playing as in the previous Gears of War trilogy, while the multiplayer has a 5-player horde mode that truly is the standout multiplayer mode. If you have an Xbox One X, you get some visual upgrades with this title, and you get the option to choose what you want, so you can either play in 4K 30 or 1080p 60. Rise of the Tomb Raider is another highlight for the Xbox One X enhanced title list that truly does show the power of the One X. When it was originally released in 2015 for the Xbox One, Rise of the Tomb Raider was essentially the Uncharted-like title for Xbox platforms, and even 2 years later, the title still shines on the Xbox One X. With the new hardware, you can run Rise of the Tomb Raider at native 4K resolution, and much like Gears of War 4, you actually get the option to prioritize either the frame rate or the resolution, so you can play at 4K at a lower frame rate or 1080p at a higher frame rate. And I really like the option that the consumer gets to choose what they want. It's something I wish the PS4 Pro would adopt in the future. Rocket League on the Xbox One is another indie game must-have for me because much like the Switch version before it, it offers the same great game that's available on PC, but now lets you play cross-play between the Switch, Xbox One, and PC, while still offering a pretty high-end experience that's missing from something like the Switch version. Furthermore, if you have the Xbox One X, Psyonix is currently working on a patch to make the game run at 4K 60 with HDR support in the future. truly making this game the standout version in terms of console if you don't really care about portability on the Switch. Regardless, it offers really great performance while still offering the crossplay that's on the Switch and the PC version. Once again, I wish this was something that PlayStation would adopt in the future. Titanfall II is one of the most underrated shooters of 2016. It was absolutely one of my favorite games of that year, and it sort of went under the radar with Call of Duty and Battlefield coming out so close to it. Titanfall 2 featured a solid single-player campaign, something that was completely missing from the original game, and new multiplayer features like new Titans, and mechanics that made the multiplayer gameplay feel less cheap. For example, the way batteries in Titanfall 2 act as health packs and not an insta-kill like in Titanfall 1. It feels much better and way less cheap. Now, the reason I recommend this currently for the Xbox One in particular is because of the 1X patch. It currently has the game running at an upgraded 1440p to 1800p, occasionally going beyond 4K in some of the lighter, less busy areas. All of that while still maintaining a pretty solid 60 frames per second. Those are my current recommendations for must-have Xbox One games, but if there are any games that you recommend that aren't in this video, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below, and leave a description of the game so people know what they're getting into. As always, thank you all very much for watching. Stay tuned because the next video will be just like this, but for the PlayStation 4, and if you missed the Switch video, check that out in the description down below. Thank you all very much for watching, hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one.